Thanks again, Chris. So now we'll be looking at how Qlik Sense supports the connected operations critical for high-tech companies. We now open up a Qlik Sense application designed around overall equipment efficiency for a steel manufacturing plant. I will now play the role of a more technical business user, or what I personally call a power user, which is someone who, in this case, is looking for insights around areas such as performance, availability, and quality from their machines, but they also want the ability to add their own visualizations, charts, graphs, expressions to further their analysis without having to go back to IT to request a change. So this overall equipment dashboard looks into 4 main operations: around forming or changing the shape of the metal, rolling or creating uniform thickness of the metal, shaving, which is the removal of the small pieces of metal, and then tapping, which is more around the final production, around cutting threads. So as I open up this sheet, we now see there's a new section called My Sheets. As a power user, I have the capabilities to now add my own view of sheets in my own personal sheet section. Only I can see these. And in fact, I can even duplicate other sheets and bring them down into my own personal view to use the work that was created onto the base sheets, and I can adjust them as need be. When I open up an application again from scratch, I can still act as a regular business user, interacting and looking at different availabilities and capabilities of my dashboard. For example, maybe at current week we have our threshold minimum target set at 65%, but for this week I might want to look at adjustment and see that our thresholds have raised to a minimum of 70%, and how does that affect our performance. And as we see here now, forming and rolling are below our threshold, and so that might be a concern to us on our overall equipment efficiency week over week. As I make a selection on forming, it will drill down and highlight the different cold formers that we have that are below our minimum threshold. Now, as before, as I move forward into the application, we can dig a little bit deeper and we can analyze between, for example, the different cells that those forming machines make up, or the specific machines within the cells that make up the different cells themselves. The cell is a block of machines. And as we dig into our overall equipment efficiency performance a little bit deeper into around things of availability, performance, and quality, I can see there is some concern around our performance dipping below our threshold on occasional weeks here. So I might want to look into this a little bit farther. As I open up our overall shift performance, I might want to see how that relates, if there's any difference between the morning or afternoon shifts. And as I see here, as us analyzing the data coming back, we can see that there is a marked difference between the afternoon shifts and the morning shifts. If I look a little deeper into the afternoon shifts, I can see again it's that specific cold former 378 and cold former 379. So there might be an issue there, or we might need to talk to the afternoon shift employees. Now, as a power user, I might want to dig a little bit deeper into analysis on my own. So for example, if I'm looking at a table like this, there's not much insight that you can find from this. It's just data. So as a user, I'm able to edit the sheet. And so it says you cannot publish, the published sheet cannot be edited, but you can actually duplicate it as before and copy and edit and do your own work. So I'm in an edit view where now I have the freedom to move and resize the visualization, in this case a table. Maybe I'll minimize this. And I might want to decide that this isn't, as a straight table, good enough for me. I want to analyze it in more of a pivot table. So our visualizations, you can just drag and drop them onto the screen, and it will adjust the chart and now create a pivot table. So it says either replace or convert. I'll convert. And it switches over. Now, I might want to look into the data and look at a little bit more visually appealing, so I'll throw, let's say, a scatter plot on top. Out of the box, Qlik will start to ask you things like, what's a dimension, what's a measure? And as we click the dimension button, we see a library of what we can work with. In my case, I'm interested in maybe the operation drill down. So drilling down in our operations from a high level down into a more specific level. And on the measurements, I might want to look a little bit deeper into, let's say, our overall equipment efficiencies. And in my case, maybe I'll look at performance. And then voila, a chart is created. Now, if you're curious where those came from, for example, Qlik allows you to build a custom library of master items. So dimensions and expressions, if you want them to drill down, so for example, my operations drills down from operation down to machine name, or more importantly, different calculations that might have been created. Whether they are simple calculations to create or more complex, you can have them here so your users don't have to worry about creating these on the fly. So for example, I might want to color my chart by the output of each machine. So I can just throw that onto the screen, color by output, and it updates accordingly. So now, as I go back to interact with my chart, on the chart that I created, I can see for in fact that rolling machines have a very low operational efficiency, and our performance is well below where we want it to be. So I might select on rolling and either make a selection or use a stylus and circle on it and interact with it and highlight that. And it will drill down to the machines that make up the rolling machine. Now I can see for a fact we actually have something going on with this one roller way below actually negative efficiency and one almost at 50%. So I'll look into these, make a selection, and then from the chart that I built in my own visualization, which was here, I can quickly look back at any other visualization in any other part of the application and view the downtime, the performance, and look a little deeper into this. If I prefer to share this out to anybody else, I can actually go into my view of my charts and I can take the sheet and publish this out. At this point, other people can see the sheets just like how I can see in the community sheet this availability by OEE by this Q service user. And now I can see what they've made. Let's maybe dig into their sheet, and I can see they've built something similar but with different charts and graphs, and I can interact with that, and my selections will work with their chart. This is just some of the ways that Qlik Sense supports connected operations in the manufacturing space and around areas around performance, availability, and quality.